I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There's a guy without a shirt on just right by me.
Oh, those
right
are
by
our
me.
naked neighbors.
I thought you meant the dog.
They're
I was
not.
like,
They're not always
yeah,
naked.
can we close it?
Not always.
That might be. He might be.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was trying to hold that in, but and then he looked at me and messed it
I
all
was
up.
like,
So.
You're just gonna let this happen? I was like, actually, didn't say anything about it. So,
2181 into 14 into 4 squad 1, truck 1, structure fire.
We got West Fire out on a fire at the West Fertilizer plant. They just advised that something exploded there.
Michigan Oak, motorcycle accident, unknown injuries, Honor 1902.
Well, welcome to episode 5. We have 3 very special guests today. We have our wives with us, and we are excited that everybody's here. Everybody's a little nervous. Everybody's kind of very chattery. So we're excited to do this and have them on. And we're pretty much going to go around, and we're just going to kind of introduce them, let them talk about themselves for a second and how long we've been married. So we'll start that out with my wife, Lauren.
My name is Lauren Scarborough. I'm married to Rustin. We've been married for 8.5 years.
Yep.
Our daughter is 7. She's about to be 8. And then our son is 4.
Yeah.
nice.
Very whiny.
We-
All the time.
Both kids are just your son.
Rustin.
Oh.
Rustin is the whiny
I'm the
one.
Yeah, that's right. Rustin's the whiny kid.
I'm Amber Perez, and we have been married for 6.5 years. High school sweethearts. 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 1 in my belly.
Dang. 3. How y'all gonna handle 3?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it.
Well, you made the
I
decision.
know. I'm scared.
Yep.
Awesome.
Terrified.
I'm Brianna Ray.
My wife.
Oh, yeah, his wife.
Awesome.
I'm Heath Ray, her husband.
Y'all have
we're
kids?
also high school sweethearts. We have 2 kids,
Awesome.
a 4-year-old girl and a almost 8-month-old boy.
Nice. How long y'all been married?
Almost 6 years in June.
Nice.
Oh wait, that's this month.
That is,
End of this month.
this is
6
June.
years.
Yeah. Nice. Heck
June
yeah.
30th.
Yep.
6 years.
Amber, how long y'all been married? Did y'all say that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
6.5.
6.5. I just want to kind of talk about our sponsors real fast. We have Salty Ladder Apparel Company. It's a firefighter-owned company. He makes banners. He made our banner behind us. He makes shirts, but he makes stickers and does everything himself. He can actually customize anything that you want. So just hit him up on the link below, and he'll get you taken care of. And then if you see these glasses in front of you, they are Frontline Optics, first responder glasses. They they make glasses for first responders. If you pay $12, you can get a new pair, no questions asked. Portion of their proceeds also go to kids that have lost parents in the line of duty. So click the link below and help them out for some awesome glasses. If you discount code ENGINE, you can get 15% off. So we've actually had a bunch of our guys that we worked with get a pair, and I haven't heard a bad things said about them.
Were y'all married before your husband was a fireman? Or how did that whole process go? Sure.
Yeah.
So we worked together at the hospital.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. So he went to the fire academy when we were still engaged, and then by the time we got married was when he got on at a fire department.
By the time I got a job at the first department, we had been married for a few months, right? Yeah. Which, in turn, we moved towns, where we didn't have our family or anything, and all of that fun stuff. Do you remember?
I remember now.
Bree, what was that?
It's come back to me.
What was that process like for you, watching him go through like the academy and all that stuff?
It was actually really fun, especially the academy, because we were still younger, and so we didn't have kids or anything to have to like make time around it. So it was still more kind of like an adventure, honestly. So like with the live fire and stuff, we got to go see it, and yeah, it was pretty easy. The process of actually getting on in a department was also pretty easy. But as far as moving, now thinking back, it was like kind of crazy. But
It was still new
I
and
had no
exciting
problem.
to us.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. And I didn't know what I was gonna do, so I was like, whatever, let's go wherever you
Yeah,
want.
she was like, let's go.
Yeah.
So
We were married for 5 years before he went through the academy. And we had both of our kids when he did that.
Yeah, Austin was 9 months old. Oh.
He was
Okay.
Try again.
Nope.
He
You were
was-
wrong.
3 or 4 months
Oh.
when you
Okay.
left your job and
Yeah.
did that.
So how was that transitioning from being just like seeing him every day, and then with the family and everything like that, going into the fire service? How did that change for y'all?
The schedule that y'all held, like when he first started, didn't make it that difficult because we still got to see him every night. I don't think it changed that much. I mean, he is getting to do what he loves, and that was really cool to see. Just him change as a person, going from a job that he liked but he didn't care about, wasn't his passion, to a job that he's passionate about was really cool to see.
What about y'all, Nate and Amber?
Yes, we were married for 2 years before you were a fireman.
So were you saying like you were pregnant whenever he got his first job?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's when we moved. When I was like 4 months pregnant is when we moved to a new town, and
Yeah.
How was that? How was the transition of that?
Young parents.
Was it rough?
Yeah, when it was just me and him, it was fine. It was lonely because like no one cared. No one knew I was a new person in town, and no one cared at that department to get to know me or anything. And then we have a baby, and then it's COVID, and then they say don't bring your family over because COVID. And then so now I just transitioned to being a firewife, and I just transitioned to being a mother and this baby that doesn't sleep, and I have no help in this town.
That's
So yeah,
exactly how it is.
we always refer to that. If we can make it through that,
Yeah,
we can make
so
it through
true.
everything.
What was it like transitioning from civilian life to being in a fire family? So I know y'all kind of touched on that, but could y'all kind of expand more on what it was like getting into the fire service? And I mean, did y'all feel much different?
I don't know. The first department, it's hard to compare to first starting to where he is now because it's a completely different department, different life. You know, it's just.
Mm-hmm.
At that department, he took overtime. He would work 5 days in a row, and I had this newborn baby. And
Yeah.
now he doesn't do that, and it's so.
Yeah.
It took us a while to get in a routine and like, okay, I can do this. I'm capable of being.
So would you say that it would have still kind of been a learning curve even if COVID wasn't going on at that time?
Yeah. I mean, it was just. It was this certain department and where we lived and our
Yeah.
whole situation, and it wouldn't be like that for everybody. But
Right.
being so lonely, I had no job, I didn't
Yeah.
work, and so I had nowhere. I wasn't talking to anyone. He was the only one I talked to, so it was like,
Yeah.
just come home. But now it's better, and
Yeah. Well, we're kind of the same case as y'all. So, I mean, you're young and married, and now you're going to be young parents, and you're in a new town. And that was kind of like a big learning curve for us because as well as learning all of those, we were still also kind of learning each other. And there was still a lot about ourselves that we didn't know yet because I was 19, you were 20 when we got
you
married.
had Haven.
But we were kind of in the same boat because, there was just a lot. It's a lot to do, I think, if you've been married for 20 years. You know, where in y'all's case, y'all had been married for a long time, lived a lot of life beforehand, but
We're
there was
old.
still.
That's right. Yeah, we're up there.
You said that. I did not say that. Oh, that was good.
I think there's harder parts and easier parts to both sides, though.
Mhm.
Even though it's a new fight, like as new firefighters, even though y'all have been there a little bit, that's kind of like what the podcast is like where you're the beginning, but you've also had some experience. I think for y'all, for sure, on the separation of us is y'all had easier parts when it comes to already being married and already having that, but also harder because you had kids through the fire academy and all of that. That was probably the easiest parts of us because we didn't have the kids.
Yeah.
But then moving, like she said, having a baby 24 hours and during COVID and picking up shifts, you don't have a choice. We literally just have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to take care of your baby. You have to do it. And so at the time you're like, oh, this is kind of crazy, whatever. And then you look back and you're like, how did I survive? Like,
Yeah.
Well, even with
couldn't see your family or
our
anything.
son now, I would, like Bree would be sending me messages all through the night of being like, I don't know what to do. Like he won't stop crying, and and I was just like, I can't do anything because I'm at the fire station, and she can't come up there because it's during COVID, and it's like,
Yeah.
it was really hard. I mean, especially for her, and I know I just felt kind of hopeless. I was like, I wish I could help you, you know?
Just being able to talk about it, because like sometimes you'd be like, I don't know how to help, but I was like, just having that outlet of being like, hey, this is hard and it sucks. I love it and I'm grateful. I'm
Yeah.
grateful I get to stay home with her, but that doesn't change that it sucks right now. And I just want you to hear that. I don't want to be like by myself in my feelings since we didn't have anybody else at the time. So
Yeah.
I feel
it was really good.
No, I think I felt fortunate that we were older and we already had our kids. Austin was a couple months old when he went through the academy and all that, but we didn't have that newborn stage where he was gone for 24 hours. And
Yeah. No.
I never thought about that until y'all were talking, but I feel fortunate that
Yeah.
we were a little bit older, and it's still a sacrifice. We went down to one income when we decided to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. When I went through the academy, I left my job completely because I can't have the way my brain works. I can't work a full-time job and go to school at the same time. And so I remember asking Lauren if I could leave my job and just tough it through it. And then she said yes. And so we did that. And
I also did that for selfish reasons, though, because I didn't want him at work all day and then gone all night at a class. So
I didn't
there
know
was a
that.
little motivation behind that decision also.
I didn't know that. I thought she was being sweet.
I was.
No, you were great during it too. And I mean, it'd been very easy for her to kind of hold that over my head a little bit, and especially if I failed. But luckily that didn't happen.
Yes.
So, but she never held that over my head at all, and so I had that support, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so.
that's amazing.
Yep. I don't think it changed too much. Like,
Transitioning.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it did for you or not, but it was for me. It was kind of like where I was supposed to be, and I think she
that's
saw
what
that.
made
Yeah.
it easier.
Yeah. So, what aspects of yourself have you seen change since being a firewife? Like, have you seen yourself change in any way at all from being just, a civilian wife to a firewife?
I would say that I've learned I'm more capable than what I don't know.
What I thought I would be.
Like, how am I going to do it? You work 24 hours, I have these babies, and then you do it, and you do it every day, and you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm capable of doing this. And the prayer. I
Yeah.
pray like 20 times a day,
Yeah.
and it helps me get through it.
And I've become a little more adaptable. I
I was
feel
about
like
to say that. Yeah.
I don't like change, even if it's like
That day, hey, I'm going to go over here instead of you're supposed to stay home.
even that little change bugs me, but
With this life, you got to be adaptable. So
Yeah.
I've gotten better at that.
I'm still working on it.
It's hard. It's
I just
hard.
know that nothing's gonna be the same. So if he's like, "Oh, I'm doing this today," I'm like, "Sweet."
I know, like when I put it on the
Take care of your
calendar.
kids later. Cool. Love you.
Yeah.
Have fun. It's kind of I'm not really weird, but at the time I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I thought I wanted to do hair, it was like back and forth, and so a part of me actually found like an identity in being a fire wife, and not like super extra. Like, I mean, not even. I don't know how to explain it, but even just like the fire wife jackets, and I feel like me and you kind of connected on that too, because some people are like, "Oh yeah, my husband's a firefighter," and we were like, "They're firefighter. That's pretty cool," like just like a cool identity from it, and so where it's like that's his thing, and I'm super happy for him, and I'm so glad that he has that passion. It's like I kind of found a passion in supporting him through it, I guess, and so that helped going through it as well, because of course if we were struggling and it was a job that he was like, "Oh yeah, this is okay, we're barely getting by," and whatever, it makes it way easier when he's like, we're struggling right now, but like he's happy, so then I'm happy, and I was happy anyways, but it definitely helps,
Right.
especially when you have no one else. You have to
Yeah.
be able to lean on that person,
Yeah.
and they're then be
Yeah.
your best friend.
Yeah. So I've only been doing this a couple of years. Have you seen any aspects of yourself change?
Yeah. Amber, your answer was like super serious, and I'm like, I feel like a peacock with my feather spread. Like, my husband's a firefighter. Like, it's a panty dropper. Sorry, Grandma.
Right?
But, like, I'm very proud of that. And, like, our kids, Austin's still, like, he is excited, but, like, Charlotte's excited. Like, she loves to tell her kids at school. And he gets to go up there. And, yeah. So, I'm just, like, super proud of him.
It is even cooler aspect of having kids in it because you see kids when you're growing up wanting to go to the fire station. And you're like, that's cool. And when you see that on your kids' faces, it's like priceless. You cannot make that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've had people ask for firefighter calendars for sure.
Oh,
I can make one.
I feel like they should make one.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think that I
I'd
should.
buy it. I'll make it.
I'd buy it.
Heath sees me without my shirt on quite a bit. He's probably like, no.
That's why y'all are best friends. So.
It's like 10 out of 10 for me. Right? You told me that one time.
Yeah.
Come spit his coffee out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we would probably disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, like, I love seeing those things. There's, like, here's, like, the expectation and the reality.
Yeah.
Like, me and Rustin eat a lot of ice cream every night.
Yeah,
on
we
shift.
Does have his night.
a lot of ice cream.
You said that didn't happen all the time.
Yeah, well.
Oh, dude. Dude,
Alright,
way to go.
Next question.
He does.
What?
So-
What's going on?
How do y'all handle with your husband, like, skipping events, like birthdays, anniversaries, and stuff like that?
Lauren?
My birthday is June 23rd and he's working, so.
Mine is June 28th and he's working.
Mine's June 19th and he's off. Sorry.
Oh, boo.
Y'all are all June babies? Wow.
I'll go.
What the hell was that?
It's the
Oh,
fridge.
it's the fridge.
Sorry.
Hello?
There's a lot of concern in your face.
I was like, well, my house got struck by lightning the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for real.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, so
Did
I
you
thought
hear
it was.
it?
Oh,
We were
yeah.
outside in the car
Yeah.
when it happened.
Wait, just y'all were out in the car and the kids were in the house?
No,
Yep.
we were all in the car. We had just
Oh,
come
we
home from
Need a
dinner.
break from them sometimes.
Kids were in the kennels. We were. In,
Okay.
I'll be wild.
You need to cut that out.
getting down a rabbit hole here. Anyway.
Anyways, I don't like. For me, it hasn't been a huge deal because, it like, with the kids, most of the time their birthday falls during the week, so we're not having a party for them. And then it's you're either working Saturday or you're working Sunday, so you pick, you know.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, like, my birthdays aren't as big of a deal anymore. So
So she says.
I kind of want to add on to this question, kind of like, so those of you that don't know, we just switched over to 24/48s. We were working like 12s, and I'm trying to think of the best way to explain
I would
that.
just
So
say
like,
There's not, man.
you would work a 12.
You should just put
you're
a
on
picture
call from home.
of our
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
so,
old schedule.
Yeah, so you'd work a 12, you're on call from home the rest of the night, and then you'd go back the next day, work another 12, and then you're on call. And then you'd be off for 2 days, and then you'd work every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, how was that compared to what we're doing now? Do y'all see a difference?
I think that this is so much better. Like, I feel like we see him more. I feel like when he's home, like, he's mentally home. With the other schedule, he would be home every night, but he'd be in his work uniform, on edge, like, waiting for a call, and you can't do anything. Even, like, making dinner, there were times that
I was
we
about to
just
say-
sat down to eat,
Oh my
and he gets a call, and I'm like, well, I'll put it in the microwave.
Yeah.
I feel so selfish
So-
because like he's the one going on the call, but I'm like, man, well, I just made this dinner. He's leaving to go save someone. Well,
Yeah.
great.
How rude.
Nerve. I'm gonna put it in the oven, I guess.
I'm someone who really likes to celebrate the birthday or the holiday like on the day. So that it's been harder for me to do, but I feel like with having kids I've gotten better. We just celebrate on a different day, and then the day of I still do something special with the kids, and we just have to send pictures to him. He misses out, but we save the special stuff for when he's home. And I feel like it's harder for you because you miss out on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sometimes. Try not to think about that.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
Does it bother you, Nate?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the greatest thing in the world is being a parent, right?
Mhm.
And being there for your kids, and every day, we would be there every day with our kids if we possibly could. But the responsibility of being a father and being the provider of your family, that requires us to work. And unfortunately, that's going to fall on days that we're not going to be able to be there.
Yeah.
So, but like Amber said, we try our best to still make those days special for the kids. But we try to save the really special things, you know, like our birthday traditions, you know, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do those on the days that I'm home. But I mean, if it's like, if I'm able to, I'll take off for it. But you know, as y'all know how difficult that can be. So, but you know, just like she was saying, it's just, we have to be adaptable, have to be able to just roll with the punches sometimes, and sometimes those suck.
Yeah.
But
I honestly feel like the transition for us, that for me at least, hasn't really been super hard, because honestly, just to compare it off of when we lived in a different town again, like that was so terrible. Like COVID and everything, that usually he can take off. He's had, like, cause he works, he never takes off for really anything, like little stuff, you know? So when he does for birthdays, it's pretty easy. For the most part, it has been for us. And then usually we just do the birthday on the weekend, but also I stayed home with my daughter. And so it was like our first daughter, like our first kid. And so we focused more on her, so we didn't care as much about the celebrating. And so now that when it became more of a big deal, thankfully when she turned 1, we were able to travel again. But then with our son, we're like, I work and we have family around, so we're able to do a lot more. So I guess it's just kind of different on the times, but yeah, it doesn't really, sometimes I don't know, it hasn't changed much.
She also had kind of like, I mean, her grandpa that she was basically, you know, raised by was also a fireman. So she was kind of familiar with like him being gone all the time and kind of knew about that life.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Oh, and I will add that this is so different compared to the 12-hour shifts, because that was a lot harder. Like, not compared to, but just being at this department, just the difference of 24-hour shifts have been way better. He was able to take off for birthdays and stuff, but as far as being home and being around him, I know that's not really the question, but I just wanted to add on to that's been a lot better for everyone. I feel like family,
I agree.
kids, everything.
Yeah.
So, what would y'all think if we went to 48-96 schedule? Would y'all like? Would y'all like that or not like that? I'm just curious.
Yeah. We would get used to it. We've done Kelly shifts, and then that weird shift, and then now this one, and this one is my favorite.
Oh, really?
Because it's like, if I'm having a hard day, I'm like, he'll be home tomorrow.
Right.
Usually.
Yes.
I know it's always
and
different, but
in our first apartment, there was a time where we had to work those 72 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
COVID.
Yeah.
They were like,
it was 72 on.
however many off.
6 days off.
6 days off.
Oh, wow.
And then you have a newborn who doesn't sleep, and I'm just holding her all day, not eating, not sleeping. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, Heath never had that long. He had to do callback, but it was never a schedule like that. I think we would also, just like we have to do with everything else as being parents, not even just moms and wives, but dads and husbands, we have to do what we have to do, and we make the best out of it.
Yeah.
But I do think that the second day is always harder. Like, we had to do a mandatory callback just recently, and usually I'm like, easy. Especially on the weekends, I'm taking to the pool, you know, taking my grandparents, I don't know. But usually if I want to stay home, it's like, this is fine, this is going to be so nice with my kids. And on the second day, I'm like, okay.
yeah, I know. Well,
They're running around. I'm like, ooh,
I'm a stay-at-home mom, so
Ooh,
kids are
goodness.
the only one I talk to all day. So
Yeah.
after a couple days, you're like,
Yeah. You get home and you're like,
My
hi.
husband.
Oh, wait, sorry, you're not a child.
yeah,
I do that even working still.
yeah.
I'm like, who's a good boy?
One of my favorite things is having a holiday at the fire station with all the families. Because, like, at our first apartment, I don't want to keep bringing it up, but, like, it was our daughter's first Thanksgiving, and we couldn't go to the station because of COVID. We had leftovers. We had no family over. Me and my daughter sitting there, whatever.
Yeah, that was a miserable Thanksgiving. It was probably the worst one ever.
Yeah.
Was the same way?
But it's fun to have a fire family and celebrate holidays together.
And because of that,
Yeah.
here, just the comparison, I think it also helps you Thank you. Be grateful for the stuff that we didn't realize
Yeah, really.
that we had.
Yeah.
Even if it is them working extra, it's like, hey, they're working extra and they're still safe and they're coming home mentally good. Because
Yeah.
there was a time that every firefighter I feel like is not sometimes.
It's very true.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we just, Mother's Day, Rustin was working. Or, hello, y'all were working. And we went up there for lunch, and that's, even though they miss birthdays, like, within their own family, it is still a family at the firehouse, and we can get together and share a
kids gotta
meal. And
play. Like,
yeah.
they're gonna have, that's what makes me feel better about it too. They're gonna have their memories of going up there too for special holidays.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Another thing too to add to that is the department we work at now. Our chief is so family oriented that he let us have our kids' their birthday parties at the station. And he was like, "Oh yeah, sure." He goes, "Let me double check the schedule, make sure nothing else is planned, but I'll put you in the schedule if it's free." And it was perfect.
That's cool.
It was so much better than us having to go out and buy a venue or anything like that. He was like, "No, have it at the station." He goes, we are a big family and we're going to be there for each other. And that was the head chief saying that.
Yeah.
So that just makes it like, I don't know, like solidifies that.
Yeah.
That
that's
family.
really cool.
Kind of just solidifies. It's like, all right, yeah, this is why I do it.
Yep.
So, have y'all seen a difference in like y'all's daily routines with the kiddos since starting all this? Your husband's on shift.
I don't have to cook. Don't have to do a lot besides just hang
Dino
around.
nuggies.
Yeah. Because, like, I want to be able to cook for him and, but I don't care about cooking for myself. So when he's not there, I'm like, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that because we try to stick to a budget, and I'm like, oh no, we don't have money to eat out, and then he's working, and I'm like, don't look at the doorbell because pizza's being delivered.
Yeah. She texted me. She said, "Hey, our the kid." She said she's coming to the door. It's not Pizza Planet, so there's no reason to look at the doorbell. I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't order food. No.
She always gets awesome food when I'm at work.
Yeah.
Even though we did have some pretty awesome chili dogs yesterday.
Chili
That would've
dogs
wrecked you.
with
Yeah. No.
onions, jalapenos, and Velveeta mac and cheese on top of it.
Mm.
And it was wonderful.
And it was
thing,
so
yes.
good. Let's say that your husband comes home or I come home, and then can you kind of tell maybe he's run a bad call, or he's maybe not himself days after that or anything like that? Can y'all tell, and do y'all step in, or do you do anything at all?
If he has a bad call, he pretty much tells me. He's not gonna just try to keep it in or something. So
Yeah.
he'll tell me, and then he says a lot. I can't decide if this call is bothering me. He'll say it like that, and I'm like, well, maybe it
You think
is
that
if you're
thing.
thinking about it. And he'll talk about it and be like, you know what, it kind of is. And I don't know. I just give him the space if he needs space. Talk about it if he wants to talk about it, and.
Are you able to sit there and listen to details of it, or do you like
Yeah.
him to keep out certain details?
I can hear details, but I do tend to have that, I don't know, womanly or motherly, like, oh, that's someone's mom, or that's someone's kid, or oh, that's so sad. But I don't see the thing, so it doesn't stick with me. It doesn't stay with me or hurt me as much as it's in his brain. Like I have a shampoo that smelled like something that reminded him of something.
Yeah, I heard that story.
Yeah, I
Got rid of that shampoo.
She didn't have
Food, but it
to.
don't matter anymore.
Yeah, I told her she didn't have to get rid of it, but she goes, "No, I'm gonna do it."
You're like, I won't love you the same, but you don't have to get rid of it.
it.
Just kidding.
All right.
But yeah, but I would say, I don't know if this is another question or not, but giving space, I feel like if you need space, you can have space, but to not let you go too long without talking about it and not communicating, because that's what's gonna boil up if you don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I did for the first year, 2 years or so.
Yeah, trying to figure out
That's what
How
I
to
was gonna
handle
say.
that.
I said
in
this
our
on the
first
last
department,
episode.
there was a lot of crazy things.
Yeah, I was about to say, I said this on the last episode, but do you remember that call when I came home and I just fell apart in the kitchen?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was just like what, 3 years ago?
Yeah,
Or 2
well,
years ago.
that's what I'm saying though. Is
Yeah.
like everything up until that point was like
Because you kind
That
of
was,
thought
like, the
like
breakthrough.
after every call, you're like, it didn't really bother me, and I'm like, how did that not bother you? That's pretty intense, and you're like, I don't know, it just didn't. And I think it really did, and you didn't know
Yeah.
how to.
You didn't want it to. almost, I
Maybe
feel
maybe
like.
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
just not wanting it to.
I think it was a mixture of like I'm the new guy and I see my other crew members. It's not bothering them, so it's not gonna bother me.
Right.
You know, so I was trying to like keep up with the boys.
Kind of saw how they were reacting.
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
weren't, then you weren't.
So I was trying to stick with them in that sense, but then like she was saying, it just like it bothered me more than I thought it did, and I didn't know it at the time until that one day.
Yeah. I think we kind of all go through that time of being new that it's like you can't really identify if it does bother you or not. And sometimes there's a delay on it.
Yeah,
Like
sneaks up on you.
You didn't realize that it did bother you until something kind of triggers and you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, that was
Yeah.
unexpected.
I think that's yeah. I was about to say a lot of it is really triggers because you almost push it down or you don't think it's going to do anything, and then something does bring it up. But that's what I was going to say too. Is that that's how Heath was for a while. He didn't really like he did talk about it, but he was like, yeah, you know, like he more so needed his space at first in the first few years, I would say, and then after the first like big breakdown to where like it really stuck with him. And it was a really bad call. He talked about it last episode that obviously it wasn't something that he's like, oh, I don't know why it's not like it was an obvious one, but he didn't realize how much it had like
Affected
impacted
everything
him.
else.
Right. Yeah, his like day-to-day stuff. And just like you were saying, the shampoo and stuff, he hadn't really had triggers like that yet. And so it wasn't anything to me yet because I hadn't experienced it from him. So once that started happening, it's like once it has to happen once for you to kind of figure out how you're going to deal with it. And so I would be like, oh, do you need me to do something? This was like way after. He would have moments where I just know he would need me to hold him or be there for him. And like, I think they have a hard time. I say they, like just firefighters that are first starting out, especially compared to the their coworkers that haven't been there, that they aren't going to have emotions about it, especially with like therapy. He talked about it last time. I was like, at least do it for me, because he felt like he was not, I don't know, like he was, what did you say? Like you had failed or something, which was ridiculous.
Yeah. Like I was like, I don't blame you if you decide to leave.
And that's crazy. But I've never seen and gone through what he has, so it wasn't in a judgmental way of me saying that, but it was like my heart hurt because I would never, I don't know. Anyway, so.
That's sweet.
Lauren.
He worked on the ambulance before he was fired, so he saw a lot of medical stuff. But he always, and really after he got on the department, he would give me a heads up, like Amber said Nate would do. Like he would text me and be like, hey, I had a bad call, like I'm gonna be quiet when I come home.
Good communication, good job.
But when he first started, like he would come home and he would tell me about these calls, and I'd be like, that's awful. Like it didn't affect you. It like would give me anxiety. And I just think about like, what if we were in that
what if
situation?
Yeah, so I would just get excited, and I'm not saying I got excited about things that I was seeing, but obviously going into this, I knew what I was gonna be seeing, and so I would come home and be like, hey, you gotta hear about this wreck with this mangled body or whatever it was, because I wasn't thinking, I was just.
And she's
That's
like, oh my
his
God.
brain.
That's my brain.
y'all's brain.
you
Y'all
know,
see it, and
so used to it or whatever, and
Yeah.
I wasn't giving her that, that respect of like, maybe she don't want to hear it.
yeah.
like the boys do it at the station.
I
Well,
wanna hear
and
the
like
juicy
how y'all
stuff,
handle
but
it with
the
the
deep stuff
jokes
is
and
hard,
stuff,
yeah.
I'm like, that is so cruel. Like,
What is wrong with you?
yes.
Yeah.
Hey, piece
That's
of
what's terrible
shit.
is Heath has got me to understand now. Like they say horrible jokes and I'm like, yeah.
I mean, I've
Like,
slipped a couple in, but
Yeah.
I feel guilty.
But I think that was the thing too. Like, if I need to talk, she's here, and I know that, and she's told me that. It's not, that she didn't want to hear it, but if I need to talk to her, she's told me many times, like, tell me whatever, and spare no details, and she'll be ears for me to vent it, and so.
But that is like, I need to get this out of my mind, like off my heart, like.
Yeah.
Because other than that, like the daily stuff, like I love you, but I don't want to hear it
Yeah.
because I can't listen to that.
Mm.
Which I think is fair. I mean, not many people can listen to that or don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear that stuff.
So are kind of y'all all have kind of the same? I'm trying to speak English.
Like process.
Yeah, I mean, could y'all didn't have to really pull that out of them. It was kind of, we all kind of were just like, hey, you should hear about this. It wasn't like a, hey, what's going on? Like, is it like
Yeah,
that every time, or?
I feel like he's always transparent about it, and he can tell me details and stuff, and even about a wreck or something when he gets all excited. Not that that's exciting, but for him as a fireman, I get it.
It's just a
And
different
so
brain.
They get to do their job. when
yeah,
they're in
and
those
it's exciting for
situations.
me to hear it, and it makes me feel like I was a part.
Yeah, same. I was like, dang, I saved
not
someone
like
too.
I'm a part of his day, but I don't
See-
know, more connected. Just like I want to know what you see, what you talk about, what I don't know.
And
It
like the
helps
marriage
me.
aspect, it's like a more intimate level that you got to
Yeah.
experience what they go through.
Yeah.
Poor Rustin, because I want him to tell me everything about his day before he was on the ambulance and before he was a firefighter, and then he was coming home and he was doing what I asked. But I'm like, yeah, I can't anymore.
Yeah.
Just tell me, like, it was good, ran a medical, whatever.
Yeah, she
That's
broad-
great for me.
Broad term of like what I did that day, and if like I said, if it's a bad thing, then I'll just text her and she'll know that I might be a little off for a couple days or whatever. But I've told her many times, if I'm quiet for longer than a certain amount of time and I'm not opening up, you either need to open me up and tell me, or you need to call Heath, or back then it was Nate and Pedro or whatever. So, and she's got numbers so that she can do that. And
Yeah,
so if she
that's really
sees
good.
that, if
Yeah,
she
that's
sees
smart.
that in me, that I'm not opening up or not communicating, then something is really wrong.
Yeah.
So, because that's not me. I'm a
Yeah.
communicator and sometimes too much of one. So if that was to happen, then she will be making calls.
Yeah.
Well, every marriage is different, and everyone takes it different. So
Whatever works for you.
I think that goes back to, like, being a family. Like, even the wives, even though we're not with y'all, working with y'all, we know if something's wrong with our spouse, like, we can reach out and, like, hey, Rustin needs to talk.
Yeah.
Or, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so how do you support, I know this is yours, but I mean,
Yeah, we
it's
kinda-
kind of moving into
yeah.
it anyway. Like, how do you support us through that rough call? Is it giving us space? Is it contacting someone else? Like, I know we've already kind of touched on that, so if we can.
Yeah, but is there anything else that you do different?
I was just gonna say it's been both. It depends on the call. It depends on his mindset for the day. It depends on how, like, much I've been with the kids. Like, if I don't know. Mainly, I feel like it depends on the call and his day. Because sometimes he does come home quiet. And again, this was before he started coping better with the calls. Honestly, like with everything he was going through, he would be more quiet, and it would kind of build up to where I'd be like, "Hey, like, what's wrong? Do you want to talk to me?" And then he'd be like, I just had a hard day. And then now that he knows, like, I'm there, he'll be like, yeah, no, I just had a hard call. And now he'll communicate about it all. I think at first he was nervous about me hearing about the calls. He didn't want me to take it on. He didn't want me to hear about it.
It kind of just comes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like we were all just trying to find out how to identify that. And there was a lot of times that I was just like, man, I don't think that call bothered me, but something is just weird right now. And I was kind of going through those phases, and, life is happening at the same time when you come home.
Yeah.
And, whether it be finances or COVID or just raising children. And there was just times where all of a sudden these things that aren't a big deal, I just couldn't handle. And Bree's like, why is this bothering? Like, they're just being kids. And I was just like, I don't know why it's bothering me. That's what's bothering me.
That's what I went through the same thing, and like actually, the last episode you talking about that, well, I was like, oh man, we both were like, that may be an issue, and so we've kind of like battled that a little bit in the last week, and I'm like, I realized something that he said was probably me. So
Yeah.
but it's crazy because they're just being kids, and you're like,
What are you doing?
yeah, so mad about.
Stop playing happily on the floor.
Yeah, quit it. Yeah.
No, it's true. I think it's a hard mixture, though. Once again, is like seeing that he needs to get through that and helping him through it, but also being like, hey, like, it was a hard trying to find a happy middle of like not making him feel like total garbage of freaking out and being like, why aren't you, I don't know, something horrible that I would never say, like a good dad or something. I would never say.
She just said it.
You're a great dad. But, you know, like,
Yeah.
and then they go to bed like, wow. Because he would do that to himself. He put so much on himself, and he'd be like, I feel like I'm like not a good dad. I feel like I'm not a good husband. And I'm like, who told you that? Like, I never said that. And he would put so much on himself that he would feel like everyone would think of him, or like mainly me and the kids. And it was like, I couldn't say enough to help him at that point when he was going through most of his stuff. But most of it helped when finding coping mechanisms and going through therapy and, you know, every day you still have to go through stuff. But
Yeah. Well, and we just get used to every day at work, everything is an emergency.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you bring that home and it's like, why do you not have shoes on? Like, that's an emergency.
Yeah.
You know, when really it's not.
No, at all.
Is there any mental stress that y'all deal with, or how do y'all handle any mental issues that come with being a firewife? Is there any?
Lexapro.
What'd you say?
Lexapro. Anxiety medicine. Live, laugh, Lexapro.
Is that real?
Oh yeah, girl, 20 mgs.
Oh my god!
20 mg.
Live, laugh. No, it's a joke. Not the medicine, definitely on that, but not as much for a firewife.
We're not a sponsor of Lexapro.
That is helpful, but honestly, the firewife aspect is not too bad because when it comes to hard calls, I don't take them personally. Like, and that might be my medicine, honestly, because I'm like, he tells me this horrible stuff, and I'm like, oh,
Whoa.
and then I just like hold him through it. Like, I only cry when he cries because he's hurting, because his heart is hurting, his mind is hurting, is when I'm upset, because I try not to personalize myself with what happened to other people.
Yeah.
And it is horrible when he does tell me about like the bad calls when it comes to like wrecks and stuff. That doesn't like make me sad. I'm just like, oh, like he tells me the details, and I'm like, that's crazy. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
would just say I pray a lot and scripture, and I don't know, I worry a lot. If I know he's going on a call, we'll be on the phone. Oh, gotta go, I'm on a call. We hang up. I have no idea what the call is going to be. It could be life-changing. I don't know. And I start to think of what ifs, and I got to just stop myself. We pray, me and our daughter. We always pray. She's like, Daddy's going on a call. We got to pray for him. And
That's really cute.
and that helps us. I don't
Maybe
know.
we'll pray at night.
I got to stop with the what ifs. I've gotten better at it, a lot better. And yeah.
Praying for sure. Amen.
I don't think there's mental stress like when he's working, but it's knowing, like, for me, knowing that he's on like a bad call or he's in a scary situation. Because when he's gone, it's like he's working, but I don't think about like what he's doing or where he's going. But if I do, like when he went to that wildfire, like I knew he was going to that, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I got on Facebook, and it's like cows running for their lives, and I'm like, he's going into that. Like,
I was not one of the cows. I may have been running for my life, but I was not one of the cows.
that was the only time like I actually got like scared, and I was like, please text me as often as you can.
Yeah, she was texting me quite a bit, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm okay. But
If
I
you
get
see
it.
it on the news and
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
like,
that's
my
terrifying.
husband's
You know-
there.
You
That's
know they're
one thing.
there,
Yeah.
but not knowing what he's done or what he's doing during the day, I think doesn't put stress on me because I don't know.
Yeah.
Which I will add, every time he goes on fires or
Medicals or car wrecks, I'm always asking him how it works and the details, and it comforts me to know like I used to think firefighters just run into burning buildings.
Yeah.
And now I know it's fully involved. We're not going to just run in, and we're not ever going to go by ourselves, and we're not
I know the
like
details. You
learning
could have
all
the
the
talks.
details, so it's not like, okay, he's going to a structure fire.
Like, what
oh
fire
no,
hose
he's
did you
going
use?
to just get collapsed on. I know tactics somewhat.
What size
I could be a
of the-
firefighter. I kind of know.
Right.
You know, if you know more about his job and what he does, it's a little more comforting.
Yeah.
So I probably bug him with all the questions, but he's so excited to tell me everything
I was
about.
about to say, especially because
I got to
they
use the spreaders.
instruct-
I got
yeah.
to use this, and it's fun to hear, and it also comforts me to know. Like if he went on a wildfire, those scared me too, but now I know kind of what they do and how they do it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, he's got it. He knows what he's doing.
and they like different things, like they specialize in different things, you know. So
Yes.
it's funny that I feel like if we had a conversation about the fire stuff we knew, like we would confuse ourselves, because like I know he's all about nozzles, but when I like listened to the first or second one that y'all talked about, I was like, what are they talking about? I just know about nozzles, so I can tell you about nozzles.
I used to tell you the PSI and how much to pump. I can't.
Oh
remember.
yeah, when they were going through school,
Yeah.
when you would test them, I was like, no, I know this. You should know this. Come on.
Friction loss formula, go.
23. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I think
45 by 42.
I think like the mental stress, like knowing when they're gone and stuff. I think it also goes back to like being a family and like getting to know y'all at the fire station or outside of the fire station, because I also know he trusts his life with who he works with, and
Yeah.
they've got each other's backs, and even if things go south, they're gonna take care of each other the best that they can, and
Yeah.
I think that's also like
It's
comforting.
huge. Yeah,
So
it's huge.
important, because
Yeah.
there's sometimes my heart breaks honestly for the people that don't trust like their coworkers or people
Yeah.
going in, because you will have that sometimes. I mean, everyone's human, and sometimes they are somewhere they don't need to be, and I honestly have more fear of that if like he's not with someone, which I trust everyone on his shift and the department honestly, but if I ever had to like deal with that, I mean, that would be most of the stress, is like, is someone going to back my husband up when it comes down to it?
Yeah.
And that's where I have the most faith of like him being protected, and that's why I don't stressed out about it as much. But over time, and I don't know if everyone kind of feels this, I think for the most part, over time it really does get better with the anxiety. I think there's highs and lows, but seasons for sure. And there was one time when he did have like a structure fire, and it was just like a normal day, so I didn't expect it, which you never do. You never know what they're gonna get.
Yeah.
And he came home and he was like, yeah, I got pulled out of a fire. I mean, and I was like, you what? Like, he was so nonchalant about it, and he was like, yeah, I thought if I just like brought it up like that, you wouldn't be stressed. And I was like,
Okay.
It wasn't that particular, but I mean, there was a few times I was telling her about like sketchy things that had happened. Like that didn't happen. What you just said.
no, when you were going in and they had to pull you out, like when you went into the fire.
Oh,
and
my
you were
first
about to go
one, because I thought he said go, but he
Right.
said no, go.
Oh.
in. So you went.
No.
And go.
That's
Yeah.
not
the same.
Go,
That
go,
was
go.
one of the times I actually remember feeling stress of like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think my like brain was like, he's a firefighter, but you know, like he'll always be okay.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's how I got through it in the beginning, until like that happened, and I was like, oh, you actually fight fires? You go into buildings with fire? That's awful. And so I think I went through that period of honestly acceptance of like, okay, this is real. I really need to learn how to cope with it as well.
Yeah.
And over time, that was a few years ago, over time it's gotten better as well.
Yeah.
So when he tells me about it, I'm like, okay, you're safe. It's fine.
Well, and like I'm gonna try not to get too much on a soapbox about it, but I mean, like Russ and we haven't worked together super long, but I mean, you know everything about me
Yep.
in my personal life.
Yeah.
Because I have the opinion that you should know what's going on in my life at my home, because you can say that, well, I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with me and work, but I
Right.
mean, the hell it doesn't. You
Yeah,
know,
no, it
because
does.
if I'm not 100% at work, I mean, that's your life,
Yeah.
you know, and then in turn, that's Lauren's life
Exactly.
and Austin's life.
Exactly.
And
We're also just open books sometimes.
yeah, and Charlotte.
That's okay.
No, yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I don't just think about myself. I think about you, and I think about you. And when I was working with you, I thought about her. I mean, and your kids. And so, man, I could lose myself in this one right here. But
I was gonna cry.
it's so important. And so to be 100% at work, I mean, it's a big deal. So
Yeah.
that's all I'm gonna say before I
You know, because if
be
you,
a big
if,
baby.
if I never ask, hey, are you all right, man?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be so easy for me to be like, that's none of my business.
Yeah.
But really, it is. you know, because when we're on the truck together, it's you, me, and one other person.
Yeah.
You know, so, and if you're not on your game, like, none of us are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, how have y'all handled, like, your husband telling you situations that were, like, kind of scared him a little bit? Because I know I've kind of talked to Bree, and I'm like, yeah, it was kind of crazy, and it's kind of scary, honestly. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it was scary.
It's scarier than it scares him. For me. Like, if he was like, I wasn't scared, I'm like, okay, I'm not scared.
I know.
But if
Confidence.
he's scared, I'm like,
if he's confident, you're like, you're confident. But if he's
I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
But then if he's scared, I was like, oh.
I used to tell her about the grass fires that I've told y'all about. And I'm like, yeah, it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Grass fires, though, so I think that's a big part. Is like if you're not confident in it, you're gonna be more scared.
Yeah.
I think that's with anything, so it makes sense.
Like one time you were pulling ceiling. Didn't ceiling fall on you, or you stepped in a pool? Or you
No,
fell
so
into?
we almost stepped in a pool. So this was like a really, really big bridge house.
There's so many like almost. We almost did this. We
Oh,
were so
yeah.
close to doing
Well, yeah,
this.
there's a lot of
those-
almost all the time.
Those are
feel
scary.
like it could've been
I
crazy.
go through.
No, actually, I didn't even tell Lauren about. What
She's like,
my,
"Don't."
She's like, don't tell me.
Yeah, she got on know.
my first fire when I ended up in the back of the ambulance. I didn't
No.
tell her that for a while.
I learned from that from the
That's 'cause you were, like,
podcast.
exhausted, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like,
What?
excuse
What'd you
me?
You're like,
She,
yeah, I was
she didn't
listening to
learn
my
that
husband the
until
other
the
day.
podcast.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
well.
I think though he, was a new firefighter and he wanted to look good for his wife, so he didn't tell me that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just
Do you do
no.
that?
It really wasn't that. It was I just if I'm okay, then I didn't want to start this off with her worrying.
Your first
About-
fire.
That-
Yeah.
You're
that's
gonna
like
end
your
up in
first
the
fire.
ambulance every time.
Yeah, I didn't want her to worry every single time. Now that I go to a fire, I'm gonna end up in an ambulance. That was my first one, and it didn't just go. It didn't
Also,
work.
too, that fire you had, we had ran like this is like 4th of July,
It was 4th of July.
and we
Okay.
ran like something like 40 or 50 calls that night before that fire. So yeah, no, I mean, we were all damn near about to go to the ambulance.
Like,
What? Yeah,
I
no,
just
it
went
was
first.
bad.
I was trying to get everybody else to go with me.
Come on, guys,
Yeah.
it's cool back here.
It feels good.
I think that also depend you know your marriage, you know what works for each other, and for us, he knows that I can't hear those things, and I'm not naive about it. And if there's something he needs to tell me, he's gonna tell me. But what works for us is omitting that stuff,
Yeah.
Kind of
unless
moderating.
it's pertinent.
Just moderating, yeah. And
Yeah.
obviously, if I went to the hospital, I would tell her. But I literally spent 2 minutes back there and chilled out for a
hanging
second.
out.
So, and it was fine, and I was fine, and it was a learning experience. So, which
Yeah.
I knew was gonna happen anyway. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Because I think whenever I was in the back of an ambulance after a fire
mm-hmm.
in the middle of summer, and I got an IV. I think I called you after. I was like, yeah, it was pretty crazy. I got an IV. She was like, what do you mean? So I was like, oh yeah, like in the ambulance. She was like, what? I was like,
I'm telling you, when you
pretty
tell me
crazy.
stuff, it's just
It's pretty
missing.
crazy. Is there any piece of advice that you would give to a couple who is new to the fire life or is looking to get in?
I would say communication. I mean, I guess that's just a marriage advice anyway, but
A lot of
always
it.
communicate. I think I said this earlier, but I'm always asking him, what calls did you run? If he says a medical, I'm like, what kind of medical? What'd you do? I mean, usually it's just, we picked up Granny.
Lipsis.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually he'll tell me if it's juicy. If not, he's like,
But I want to
Awesome.
know all about it. I want to know. I want to be like I was a part of his day. But communication is big, and always just be proud. I don't have that pride of my husband's a firefighter. The other day, we went to the station with the kids, and as soon as we got there, it happens all the time. As soon as you get there, you hear them rolling out, and so. I get the kids out of the car so we can see and wave to him, and he's driving, so he puts on the cue and he does the lights, and the kids are all like, woo! And I teared up because it's so cool. I'm like, he's so cool. He's a firefighter and he's going to a call.
it's literally
Somebody
like you see it
needs
through your
him.
kids' eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also not because,
Yeah, but it's just that pride. Like, somebody needs him, and that's my husband. I don't know. Just keeping that pride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also put writing notes. Because I write him notes
Oh,
before he
yeah.
goes to work. And
That's so sweet.
I used to write notes when he would
just-
come back home. I haven't done that in a while, sorry,
Yeah,
but
she don't do that.
Never done
Yeah.
that. So
sorry. I was pregnant last year and it was a doozy, so
Yeah.
veto that whole last year. Before that, it was good.
but just make him remember, like, firefighters, they love their job and they can get caught in their job and they love their job more than coming home. But remind him that you love him and there's a happy home waiting for you. So you need to love being home more than being at work. But like,
remember
really,
when people
there's
home.
older people like 20 years on who have told us, I cared too much about my job and it cost me my marriage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're like, we keep that in mind. Like, keep things in check. Home is more important.
I think going into that is really big, actually, is not putting that before your family, because even when you're starting out, you will have to make sacrifices. So it's not to say that if you work an extra shift, like, nope, I gotta go home, you know? But it's like sacrifices, but not choosing that over your mental health, over your family, you know? I think that's really big. I don't even think that was much of an issue at first, but I think weirdly enough, it became an issue later on, but not even choosing it, but where it took over his mind, because mental health, like, it just took over all of his thoughts, and so he couldn't be home with us sometimes. And so be prepared, honestly, and you can only be as much prepared, but at least be prepared for something to happen, to be like ready for when they come home on a hard call, and be like, what do you need? Do you need space, or do you want me to like hold you, or like you want like some loving, you know, like what do you need? You
No,
know?
but what you were saying about getting caught up in the job, that happened to us. I mean, it's like last year, I think.
I think everyone
It was before we went to 24s. Y'all were on a fire, and I had texted the chief that was in running command. I said, "Hey, do y'all need help?" And he said, "Yes." And then I told her,
B shit.
yeah. Well, and also too, A shift
about
was
that shit.
our shift had a spell where we weren't running anything. So I was like,
So you were just bored. You were like, please.
yeah.
That's where Mop Up Nate came.
I was gonna say that's when Mop Up Nate came into the picture.
Yeah. Anyway, so of course he texted me and said, "Yeah, sure." And then I came in and told her, and then as soon as I broke the news to her, I could just see the frustration. And then my daughter comes up to me and goes, "Daddy, will you play with me?" And then I had to tell her I have to go. And that was when I knew when I messed up. I was like,
Yeah, I cried.
that was a day that I realized that I had gotten too invested in running, or being at the station and running calls, that I did not put my family first. So that was a mistake that I made, and we talked about it when I got back. You straighten everything out, and I feel like since then I've done a pretty good job of not putting the job before us and our family.
It's easy to fall into because
Yeah,
we
it
care about
was.
it so much,
Mhm.
and we thoroughly enjoy it that you kind of lose sight of that line. I mean, I've done it.
But I think and I'm not in their minds, I'm guessing in their minds, it's like they're not doing it maliciously. They're not coming home and it's like, oh man, I can't wait to leave again. It's like they're like, oh, I can't, like I enjoy doing that. I enjoy going on calls.
I
but
can't wait.
Yeah, but then there's times where Heath has been like, it's been slow, or even if on a call he's like, man, I can't wait to be home. Like, it really just depends on the day. I mean, I could be at work and be like, I'm loving it. I'm reading all day. I'm having a break from my kids. Honestly, it's like you can have those thoughts, and then some days be like, I cannot wait to be with my kids and my husband. So I think it's just natural, but sometimes it will cross the line.
Yeah, in y'all's profession, y'all have to be all in. Like,
Yeah.
you have to almost always be thinking, like, of these situations, how to handle them, what you're supposed to do, because it's y'all's job. It's much more demanding than other jobs.
Yeah.
My advice would be, like, to give each other grace. I love communication, but I also think a big thing is grace, because it doesn't matter what you've done before. Like, your husband's going to be figuring out how to be a firefighter, how to deal with the mental things that come with that, and you as a wife will also need grace, because some of us, we can't hear it, and we're going to have to, like, push our husbands to someone else that can hear it, and push them to other people for help. We might not be able to be that for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think grace has to go both ways. I mean, I've got to give her grace just as much as she has to give me grace. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
You're figuring it out. It's
yeah,
a whole
I'm
different lifestyle.
figuring it out. You know, I don't know. I just if you don't give each other grace, something is gonna happen, and you're gonna end up resenting each other, and that is the key to being divorced. So
Yeah.
I think that it goes both ways, and she's done a fantastic job of giving me grace, whether that's, you know, not being here or missing a birthday or an anniversary or something like that. But we're just coming in and just being mad, mad at the world, mad at a call, whatever it is. But she's done a good job of giving me that grace.
I think a good line, the same really off of grace, is like supporting. That's what I meant to say, but I don't know. I forget.
The dog gotten.
Yeah. You know. Is supporting them. And it's really the same thing as grace, honestly, to a point. But it's like supporting them either way, whether they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, or sometimes like if your feelings get hurt, and I say yours, like I feel like sometimes maybe my feelings would get hurt. It's like, oh, you don't want to talk about it, or oh, you feel like you can't talk about that with me, even though he's just trying to protect me. It's also like supporting them. It's like, okay, I'm going to support you in whatever you want to do, just the same way they do with us. And I think honestly, communication though is going to go the longest way, because it's easier said than done. It's like, oh, communicate, just like with marriage. You're like, communication, whatever, and like you get into it thinking it's going to be easy, and it's like communicating is way harder than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so I think it's times 10 when you become a fire wife, when you become a firefighter, because of the mentality of what you see and go through as a firefighter, and when you come home to your spouse, having to talk to them about it, or not talking, and finding the line of when you want to talk, and if you don't want to, when the spouse is going to be like, hey, you know. So I think that's definitely the biggest one, of actually being serious about communicating, because some people think, oh, that, and then it ends up
Yeah, you
not
actually
working.
have to.
Yeah.
All right, Bree, take us out.
Okay. Train hard, keep pushing, and we are back in service.
Service though.
Perfect.